music. So I wonder if you'd like to comment on that.
That's very interesting. What's Kepler's dates?
Well, this is beginning of the 17th century.
Okay. That is interesting, yeah. Well, of course, they didn't have the pure seven. So they would have been the 17th century. Well, it's very interesting because you see the seventh, as it's used in our music and the music of that time as well, because it was based on the fifth, is you see the music that we have is really, of course we've got all the intervals and but it's really just all about the fifth and the third. They're the only one, the two intervals that are in tune on our system are the fifth and the third. All the others are out of tune.
Because of the world tempering.
Yeah.
Well, the thirds aren't very good.
Well, the fifth and the third's not very good either.
No, they're not.
But it's better than the rest. And so the seventh is a kind of what we call a passing note. It just, as I said when we were looking at the seventh, it sort of just leads on. It's just leading on to another note. It doesn't have any being so much of its own. And perhaps that's what he was getting at. It makes sense.
There's something quite interesting about the seventh and the gamelan thing, and the fact that music survives in Bali, in Indonesia, because there are lots of, there are various dates going on in Indonesia at the moment. They think they're beginning to find cities there, Gunan, Padang, places like that, that seem to be dating back to about 12,000 BC, so they're older than Göbekli Tepe in 15,000 BC, Gunan and Padang, the archaeologists are saying. So they think that really there might have been, what you might be looking at in Indonesia is sort of Lemuria, if you like.
Even old,
Yeah, so those are sort of definitely a very, very, very early civilization. So you really are hearing music surviving from that time.
But also, John, would you like to comment perhaps on Kepler's view? Is number 7 not found in the realm of nature? Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I mean, it is a funny number 7. It stands alone. John Michel used to call it the Virgin. Doesn't really react. You've got 7 crystal groups, haven't you? And then of course you've got 7 planets and the entire ancient world. So then builds this this entire edifice around 7. But it is largely a construct, a man-made construct. But also it's there. It is beyond that because it is visible as 7 moving dots. Was for a long time in the sky. So there's 7 planets. So you've got 7 chakras. So yeah. But yeah, you're right in terms of actually popping up in nature in sort of obvious form. It doesn't. It's subtle. It's hidden, and it sets itself apart. It doesn't combine with anything else. It probably 3 has a ratio of 3 between 7 and slightly.
It's possible to say something. I've made lots of notes because we had this thing on last week that Anne and I helped you out with. It was a fascinating presentation. Again, I didn't sleep last night because exactly the same happened last year as well. But I'd like to put everything in my own feedback rather than spend time and let other people questions. But the first presentation, you were the first presentation, weren't you?
No, we had the introductions first.
Oh, okay. Well, your visuals were amazing. I really enjoyed them. And it's fascinating, some of the things that you said. I didn't understand everything because I was still kind of new to all the visual arts there. So. But the European was beautiful as well. I really enjoyed that. And understanding, like the alchemical components like sulfur, salt and mercury and
first one.
When you do,
Yes, it was a 12th century, I should have said, 12th century hymn to the Virgin Mary.
what's
It's called Beata Viscera. And it's by Beata, who was one of the sort of acknowledged first composer of harmony, although this wasn't a harmony piece, from Notre Dame. Beata, P-E-R-O-T-I-N.
sorry again.
P-E-R-O-T-I-N, and I got it from the recording of the Hilliard Ensemble, actually. You can hear it on that famous one.
Yeah.
What's it called? Not Memazine, but the one before. With Yangabara. What's it called? It's a famous collaboration. The first one they did with Hilliard and Yangabara. Officium.
Oh, yes.
And it's a solo piece by the countertenor on side 2.
Got 10 pages of notes, don't worry, I'll make up for the silence.
Question. What's the difference between 11 over 8 and 4 over 3?
11 over 8 is the pure.
Yes.
Do you know, I was thinking I forgot to mention this. Oh gosh, no you got that right. Okay, this is very interesting. This is very, very interesting. Well, you see, what we didn't talk about was the pure 4.
No.
You see, the fourth that actually I mentioned is called the Pythagorean fourth, because it occurs in Pythagoras' scale, and it does occur in the overtone scale series. So it is a pure interval, but there's another fourth, and that's called. Actually, does it? Yeah, it does. But there's another one which also occurs in the overtone series, which is called the pure fourth, which is 11 over 8. And this is absolutely fascinating because it's the Christ interval. And I did say it was part of what I sang at the end actually, but it was used in the Greek mystery centres, and that's what Kathleen Schlesinger's work, who had a big cooperation with Steiner, was all about. The Greek Aulos, she was keeper of the musical instruments in the British Museum in Steiner's time, and she researched a lot into Greek music, and leave all that in a bit. Anyway, so this pure fourth was used in the Greek mystery centres, but there's no records of it because that was all secret. And then it existed in the folk culture in Eastern Europe where Bartók discovered it. And that's it. It hasn't been used apart from that. So it's waiting to be discovered. And that is the Christ. I mean, it's just...
This is really interesting. Surely, does this relate to, where you were going, or the Eurythmists were going? But you were talking about, the Platonic, being nailed on the cross of matter.
Yeah, I think that is...
This, you see, this, obviously, which is a fourness.
Yes, it's a cross.
There's another version of that, but I can't remember it. Steiner found another version of that.
Yeah. You see, so there's a lot of very interesting mathematical stuff which could be like geometrical stuff that comes in here, because again, you were talking at the beginning, we had that beautiful image of the Chartres window, and David was pointing out the squares with the circles. When Coralie had to go now, she'll be back tomorrow, but she was taking us through these 6 eurythmy gestures, and again there were 3 circles and there were 3 squares, and this whole relationship between the square and the circle, the straight line and the curve, is such it's such a spiritual matter so the straight line is our vertical, which interestingly, you see, we share with the plant world.
That comes into this whole business of being nailed to the cross of matter. It's in the Temple Legend lectures and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yes, it talks about the vertical of the plant world and the horizontal of the animal world, because the animal's head is, the animal
That's right.
is on the horizontal.
That's right. The cow is beautiful. The sacred cows of the Hindu religion.
But there's also the whole business of the symbols of the ethers. That would take all night. Yes. But the actual shapes that certain ethers are responsible for make symbols. So you've got the circle and the crescent and the square. And then Ratliff does a huge research into that, and Steiner's help. And the circle is the ancient Indian civilization. The crescent, strangely enough, comes after the cross. The cross, the square, is at the incarnation of Christ. You have an assault crystals. But then you have the crescent, which is the symbol of Islam, coming after. But I think I've got a clue to why that comes after, because there's a connection with Lucifer there. So it's all highly complicated. But these shapes are to do with the evolution of the ethers as sort of cultural signs. You can even see it in the way the shapes of cars change, that the different ethers rule certain times. You get very round sort of shapes of cars. You have squares with American oblong ones. I mean,
Right.
you can go on with this
Yeah.
further. But those symbols are very real symbols because they are to do with the different ethers, which create actually into nature in those shapes.
I'm on a kind of different thread. This is what happens with Sylvia and me. Because where I was with the curve was thinking about Fibonacci again, and how interesting it is that the pure numbers can lead into the spiral. In fact, that's interesting because we haven't mentioned spirals yet. Yeah. And we didn't actually talk about the Pythagorean comma.
It's normally a 5 kilo. It's quite hard. Yes.
But certainly, I mean, the spiral, yes, in terms of incarnation into matter, being on Mother Earth and relating to Mother Earth in time, this is, you were talking about the timelessness. That's what I don't know about anybody else, but the seventh, the pure seventh, and that gamelan music, for me there was a spaciousness which was the timelessness. And incarnation is in time, in flesh. And that is the spiral. That in nature it's always spirals. And it's a projection when we see it as a circle. So the circle can always be seen as a two-dimensional projection of this three-dimensional entity.
And it also can be seen as the cornucopia, and a whirlwind or a vortex. The vortex and the cornucopia. And then the cornucopia is almost like a braille, where if you looked into it, you could see everything you wanted. It brings matter. It brings all sorts of abundance into matter, and then that takes you into that wonderful book on water, Sensitive Chaos, where he has that
Theodore Schwenk.
Theodore Schwenk, where he speaks about how these forces are coming in from the spiritual into matter through the fluid element. So you can make a comparison between vortex, cornucopia, and the brain.
So can I just say something very quickly? I've actually been to Indonesia, been to Bali, and seen the gamelan music, and generally the music is held outside in temples, and even though listening to it, it can seem rather chaotic, but everything is to do with the terms of Mahabharata, the Hindu culture, or Ramayana.
2, and then 4 compared with 3, 5 to 4, 6 to 5. So I don't know if Roulin does that in that book. It would be very good to, at some point, demonstrate.
Well, that's what these are. These are the length of the monochord. So it goes 14, if you use 8 on the bottom, it's 14, 13, 12, and then it just goes down every time. So it's an exact progression.
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
It's sort of, but you've got a few missing, like the 5 over 6 and the
yes.
That's,
I mean, I
Four
guess.
over
yeah, that's another. That's
Yeah,
another.
I mean, this is a whistle-stop tour. You know, that would have to be another.
Yes.
Yeah. But that
No,
whole,
there's
the
only-
whole monochord thing is a big part of it. Yeah, and all the maths. It's
It's really.
But, I mean, does he talk, I mean, I am interested in this, you know, like the going into the 9 over 8 as a second. Because, I mean, that's the, you know, very rare, isn't it?
yes.
And
Yeah. Well, the second is the next epoch, and it's already coming towards us, and
right.
it's in a lot of music of our time,
exactly.
and it's the etheric.
Because I was thinking, because I know, I mean, this is sort of, you know, if you, like, so for me, as a, yeah.
It's like hearing the second, you know, which
Yeah.
normally is you think of as a dissonance. It's like hearing it, beginning to hear it as a consonant, and
Yeah.
it's like hearing, finding the quality in it.
Yeah.
So it's all.
Jazz does it all.
Yeah, it's all phenomenology.
Yeah, and that's what I really appreciated, you know, your presentation was just going into those very, very small differences.
But they're big,
Listening.
they're
And
big,
they are big differences.
quality.
And they are big differences qualitatively, absolutely. Because I heard there was on the radio the other day, and apparently, so you know, it's just, you know, beautiful and spacious music. When it was first presented, the audience just thought that the orchestra was still tuning up.
Yeah. Well, he's
Like some spring.
He's one of the first composers of the second.
Yes,
You
it
think
is.
if you think of the La Mer, the sea.
Yes. It's supposed to be a grand master.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
The Priory of Zion. There's a big question mark as to what
Someone's listening
Whether it was
closely.
all made up or not, whether it was a hoax.
Whether it was a
No
hoax.
one knows.
keeping us busy.
You know, has anyone done a study or any research on the unique characteristics of music and nations? I mean, French music, American music, English music, you can spot a mile. Indian, you know, Polish, Russian.
What about Vaughan Williams and Surrey?
Well, you know, that's what he's saying. Has anybody
Yeah.
looked at
We
it?
need
No, that's
to.
well, that's exactly what I'm getting at. So
Yeah.
to bring
Yes,
it
it's
down.
Eddie, it's the folk spirits.
Sorry.
Steiner speaks about the different folk spirits of the
Right.
different countries, the different nations. Each folk spirit has its own personality,
Right.
and that personality is stamped on the culture of each nation.
Okay.
So, for example, the Celtic folk spirit, when the Celts died out, according to Steiner, the Celtic folk spirit became the folk spirit of esoteric Christianity. When the Greek culture, the ancient Greek culture died out, that folk spirit became the leading light of exoteric Christianity. So you have these switches, but the folk spirits are also attached, you know, to nations as we know them now, still have their folk spirit. And that personality is the personality of the being itself. So that's why I said Surrey and Vaughan Williams is only a little microcosmic example. When you drive through the Surrey countryside on a lovely day, you can sort of hear Vaughan Williams, and vice versa. And I'm sure it relates in other ways to the different countries. There could be a wonderful study of that.
Related to language and diet,
Yes.
surely.
But also the etheric bodies.
And climate.
Yeah, but the etheric bodies of the different countries are different,
Right.
apparently.
Well, for once, I'm not being very esoteric about this. I'm bringing it right down to earth. I'm just saying, relating it to the culture, the language, the diet, the customs. The music reflects all of that,
Absolutely.
not just the guiding angel.
Yes, but the guiding angel is the sort of, well, the embodiment of the guiding angel is surely the culture. An embodiment
Yeah.
of the culture.
Okay.
Archangel. They are archangels.
You've also got the genius Loki and the Greek,
Yes,
the Greek
yes,
spirit of the
yes.
place that
Mm.
is supposed to inhabit every hill and vale, and possibly they could be operating through the composer
Absolutely.
as well.
As well, yes,
Yes.
that would be in the
Sort of the synthesis of all these different things.
But I saw an interesting exhibition in Lithuania by geologists who said that their 13 national groupings were correlated with the geology. And it was quite convincing presentation.
Somebody actually did a study on the Cathars and the fact that I think it's limestone in the Cathar area, and that Bath has a similar geological formation to the Cathar area. And Professor Gerdon's clients who had all these Cathar memories were popping up where, again, there was limestone.
But the different rocks will
They were attracted.
fissure in different
Yes,
ways.
there was some
And
connection.
the ways they fissure are actually numeric. But that is crystallography, all that stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody.
It's about the temperature.
Yes, this is the point we're
The
trying.
radiators need bleeding.
We're going, we're going to talk. Hopefully we'll be warm tomorrow. But I mean, maybe when it's evening even. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you all at the concert later. Oh, there's one more thing there.
Well, maybe small. I appreciated your human becoming rather than human being.
Oh, she's someone who really listens.
May I borrow it, please? May I borrow it?
Oh,
please?
certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Thank you. Yeah, there are places to eat near here. They don't do them in Baker Street. There are also places to eat in different places.